how does Moscow balance its relations with both Tehran and Washington at this point?
Of course, Russia is a mediator and stabilizer in those very serious situation between the United States and Iran over this nuclear program. Because what could happen and what Moscow sees the situation if the deal will not be made and if negotiations would come to some deadlock. So it could be a risk that Iran could withdraw from this non-proliferation treaty. A non-proliferation treaty, it's one of the international law which articulates these nuclear issues. And I think it wouldn't be a good option for the whole world community, for the international community. And so what we might expect, it might happen as North Korea, for instance, they withdrew from a non-proliferation treaty. And we see North Korea, well, keeps its sovereignty, but at the same time, still it's kind of in isolation, economic and social, political isolation. So Iran, I believe, understands and probably considers a few options. So what can happen? So what would happen if Iran would do this or would do that? And Russia and Moscow as well, we consider that Iran just might withdraw, but I think it would complicate world relations, world affairs, and also I think it might complicate our bilateral relations. And I think that it's not in interest of Iran to withdraw from a non-proliferation treaty, and it's better to cooperate and maybe just to make this nuclear program like more transparent, and maybe just to take certain obligations for certain transparency and control maybe from other nuclear powers. And I think that might be the option.
Yes. Professor Musmar, what are the potential benefits for the U.S. in accepting Russian mediation?
Well, as we said, the United States has to need Russia in that kind of deal. It's not like offering that. Why? As we said, because Russia is involved in the Iranian nuclear programs big time. Containing that program without Russia and Russia's agreements with the United States to contain that program for Iran is not going to work. Yes. Because the United States, if they, keeping that sanctions against Iran or Russia, Russia will, keep going with the program with Iran and keep supporting the nuclear program of Iran to use it like as, leverage on the United States interest in the Middle East. So it looks like America and Russia are agreeing on the future of the Middle East somehow. And that's how Russia kind of like, withdraw from Syria. So most likely there is a new picture of the Middle East growing up.
You're trying to say that there is some sort of consensus in visions, in political visions between Washington and Russia. Okay.
Yes, definitely yes. And if Iran is going to be part of that future of the Middle East, it has to be peaceful Iran, not nuclear program Iran. Okay. And something else, like the West, people maybe misunderstand. The West doesn't have problem with the Iranian people. The West has problem with the Iranian regime and the Iranian nuclear program.
Professor Krasnyak, what regional or global benefits does Russia seek from this mediation?
Well, like I said, first it's about keeping this nuclear club of United Nations Security Council of permanent members, which includes Russia,
How
the United
does this
States,
serve
China.
Russia's interests in a way?
Exactly. It's about just to keep this nuclear club not extended, just to keep it as is. And not allowing or adding potential nuclear power to this club and basically making this more peaceful or more stable relations in global affairs in case of the nuclear issues. So that would be the main benefit. It's not just only about national interests of Russia or any other country. It's about for global stability. And having one more nuclear power, which is not a part of, let's say, of international law, some agreements, international agreements, I think it would put the Middle East and more wider global world at risk. So, and in this case, of course, Russia's benefits, it's about just to keep situation as is. In the case of nuclear capability, but for peaceful reasons, it would be another story. But cooperating in this way with transparency and with certain acknowledgements of the needs of Iran, I think that would be the way. And Russia, it is not just only facilitator and mediator, but one of the contributors of Iranian nuclear program for peaceful use of nuclear power.
Professor Musmar, how might other regional players like China, for example, and Israel react to Russia's involvement in the negotiations?
Yeah, well, as your guest said, all of them will agree on that because all of them, they don't need one more member in that club. That's like the main broader line. Number two, as we said, that United States is trying to isolate China anyway, and that's for the benefits of Russia. Russia would like to get rid of those sanctions against its shoulders. Russia's economy is going down. Russia has too many interests in the Middle East. Well, we have to add one more important point, which is like the gas business, which is China doesn't have it. So it's for the benefits of the United States to have agreements. And that's why maybe the main reason that they choose Riyadh before in Saudi Arabia, because we're talking about now the three major big players in the gas and oil industries, which is United States, Russia, and Saudi Arabia, and it's more actually accurate to include Iran's oil in that business to control the oil prices too. So if you look at the mutual interest of Russia, it's much better for Russia to be away from China, to be involved more, and actually Russia is sort of a piece of Europe at the end. So it's better for it to be involved in the Middle East and the West away from China. Okay. Now, if China has different interests, which is definitely it has, maybe cross the interests of Russia at the point or at a certain level, it's still both of them they're gonna agree, including Israel as well, that we don't need one more nuclear power.